Mind Body Life show hosted by Frederick Entenmann on Global Voice Radio on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern. During his show, Mind Body Life founder and best-selling author Frederick Entenmann investigates the little-known insights and daily methods used to create explosive life transformations and transitions with those that have risen from struggle and ascended to greatness. Here is your Mind Body Life host, Frederick Entenmann.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Mind Body Life show with Frederick Entenmann, yours truly. With me today, I have Dr. Shan Hussain, and he's been a medical doctor for the last 17 years. He graduated from Imperial College in London, England, and spent his first 7 years as a doctor working in hospital medicine, a real overachiever. He's been a general practitioner for the last 10 years and has developed a special interest in health promotion and disease prevention, which I love. That's right up my alley. And he's also trained in neurolinguistic programming. He has a diploma with distinction in coaching and a certification in healing. He's also the #1 best-selling author of the book, The Big Prescription, which is available through Amazon. And most notably awesome, we are co-authoring together in a book due to come out in 2018 with other health and wellness experts titled Wake Up, How to Live a Vibrant, Healthy Life. And I am more than ecstatic to be a part of that with this really, really incredible human being. Dr. Shan Hussain, welcome to the show. I have to ask you first and foremost, what is your background and how did you become interested in medicine?
Hi, Frederick. Thank you. Wow, it's a very generous introduction. Thank you so much for that. So my background, yes, I'm a qualified doctor. I first became interested in medicine right from my childhood. My father was a doctor, and we come from many generations of healthcare professionals and physicians. So it was kind of ingrained into me. Most of his friends were doctors, and we'd all meet up together, and it just became. It was kind of assumed that it's expected that would be the direction I would take. I didn't think it would bring me to where I am now, but it was. It's something that I've truly been passionate about, helping people, finding a way to help people with health problems and stress-related problems, and finding the quickest way possible.
Wow, I actually didn't know that about your past. I mean, that's incredible. So your formative years, is it safe to say, you really didn't know any better, but having by traditional means, medical perspective. Is that correct?
Well, yes. Obviously, I had a normal childhood. I was, very blessed to be raised very well by my parents, who had wonderful influences upon me. But they, encouraged me to explore all options. But that's ultimately what I decided to do.
Nice, I like it. And did you grow up with any specific habits or rituals or traits that you now notice that kind of set you apart from your other schoolmates? Because take it from me, I briefly discussed, I tried to become a doctor myself, and it's a brutal process in their formal education. You have to be extremely focused. You have to know what you want. Were you always just such a focused individual?
Only about things I cared about, things I was interested in. I wouldn't say generally I was focused. No. As a child growing up, I was pretty different. I kind of liked to do my own thing. I was very quick to question a lot of things, a lot of authority, a lot of rules, things that just didn't really resonate with me. And that did continue throughout medical school. I wasn't a good student. Let's just be really blunt and honest there. I was quite the opposite of a good student. I didn't study every day. I studied when I needed to. And I recognized that the obstacles that were put in front of me were really just I had to overcome them to get to where I wanted to be. I didn't have to agree with them. And I wasn't a fan of the process and the things that medical school puts people through, but it's a means to an end. And, I recognize that it's very unusual for someone to hit the age of 25 and have full-time work pretty much guaranteed for the rest of your life. So that was, a big motivator. And so, yeah, I mean, that in terms of being focused, I was focused when I needed to be, and I'm always focused on things that I enjoy, that resonate with me, and that I'm passionate about.
Wow, that's so. It's safe to say you have a strong quality of perseverance, but you did manage to get through an awfully difficult system, which is, to me, quite impressive, because that's not an everyday occurrence. But with all that being said, I do see you are married, and do you have children?
Yeah, I've got a 9-year-old boy, Daniel. He's a really cool kid. Yeah, I've been married for let me think now. Gosh, 11 years. Wow. Yeah, long time.
That's wonderful. I can tell from just following you on social media and seeing some of your pictures, you're not only a wonderful father, because there's these shines through your family. I can tell you're very tight knit, and in today's society, it's I think everyone I talk to, including my clientele and people that I talk to in general, they want to achieve this balance in life and work and family in today's chaotic culture.
Yeah.
How do you manage to limit your distractions or diversions, or what's kind of your own little secret here?
Well, I don't think it's a secret. I think the key to anything in life is balance. And, if you look at life through, I look at 3 different areas, which are health, relationships, and vocation. So within vocation, obviously, you're looking at your profession and your income and finances. And it's important to keep all 3 areas in balance. And especially I find probably the most valuable out of all of them is my health, because without that, very little else gets done. And then after that it is my relationships with my family. I think of relationships as a physical entity. I think every relationship, people that I'm close to, you have to nurture and cherish and make sure that you're supporting those relationships on a regular basis. It's kind of like, if you have like a really nice sports car, you can't just leave it out in the rain with the doors unlocked and never change the oil and never get it serviced or anything. What's going to happen? It's going to start to fall apart. Maybe it'll even disappear one day. And it's the same in a relationship, whether it's with with a spouse, with your child, or with a client. You have to make sure that you're nurturing and cherishing those. My mother was telling me about a friend of hers whose son, apparently his wife just suddenly walked out on him after 11 years of marriage for no reason. And I said, come on, there's got to be a reason. Do you believe that? There's always something there to cause that kind of behavior. And if you're not taking these kind of relationships seriously, then, there could potentially be trouble down the road. So yes, I do recognize and value the importance of maintaining relationships very, very much.
I like what you said, in terms of fostering. It's almost like I feel our relationships in our life are a direct extension of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very reflective of our values and ethics and morals. And obviously you've got all that figured out for yourself. What are some of the things that you personally practice that to kind of clear your head and work on your inner game, so to speak?
Well, I don't have it all figured out, just to be clear on that. My main things are meditation, mindfulness, energy clearing, and daily exercise and activity. Absolutely vital to help release a lot of stress that we can end up carrying. I would say those two practices are probably the most common and the ones that I do. Well, certainly meditation every day. Exercise is usually 5 or 6 days a week.
Wow.
Well, I think just doing those two things can have a transformative effect, not only on your health, but your relationships, your energy levels, your business, so many different things that can result from that.
I'd have to agree. The two things in my life that I think have made the biggest difference is, number one, meditation. And I'd actually put that before exercise, but not exclusive, but literally, I'd have to agree. Meditation really was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
I started only 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I would have had that in my formative years, holy cow.
Oh, yeah.
I'd have to agree. It brings me a great deal of clarity and focus, and you add the exercise and the stress dissolves and everything's good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which leading into, is it correct to say, did you transition out of the traditional medical field and kind of formed your own philosophies and theories, and you're now doing corporate wellness consulting?
It wasn't a sudden transition. What I started to notice is, and a lot of the medical textbooks and the guidelines will confirm this, is when we're treating patients within the setting of primary care, we should be giving appropriate dietary and lifestyle advice first and foremost before we rush into prescribing pills and potions. And that's recognized within the guidelines, whether you're treating hypertension or diabetes. It doesn't matter. There's clear evidence and pathway stating what a doctor should do before we start to prescribe. And what I found is the more people followed that advice, the less people needed medication. And yeah, this doesn't sound like rocket science, but I thought, well, can we actually potentially avoid the need for all of these medications? I started studying this from a sort of holistic health and wellness point of view, rather than from a medical point of view. Looking at health as it is defined as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, which is how the World Health Organization put their definition together in 1948. So that's been unchallenged for almost 70 years now. But if you break that down into those three areas, physical health, mental health, and social health, and you do what you can to support all three of those areas, then naturally we start to improve our health. We start to feel better. Not only that, but we start to feel more energetic, more confident. We lose any excessive weight we're carrying. Our skin becomes clearer, and we just generally feel better within ourselves. So that is the three principles I use behind my work, and I described quite extensively in my book. I formally left medicine very recently, actually. It was only last month. I decided to stop practicing as a medical doctor simply because this side of things resonates with me more. And it's become a lot more busy as well. So it became, what we were talking about at first, which is finding that work-life balance. Which one do I really want to continue doing? And that's the decision I made. And yeah, I have no regrets. The more time that passes, the less I want to go back to being a practicing physician.
Wow. Was it the demand of the traditional medical field or career that led you to this, like, quote unquote, truth or revelation? To have you move out of it?
There wasn't a single moment of truth or revelation, but there was a moment when the demand reached unsustainable levels, and that was in 2011. One day, it was a Monday morning. I was the duty doctor on call that day, and I'd seen almost 50 patients just in one morning. Yeah, well, that's only part of it, because each patient on average presents with 2.7 problems that they want you to fix. So, that's a pretty stressful morning to have. And afterwards, I was just completely depleted energy-wise, tired, stressed, exhausted, and I could easily have fallen asleep. And then I just had a look through all of the records of the patients I'd seen that morning and just asked myself how many of these conditions were preventable. How many of these patients could have avoided seeing a doctor if they'd known how to take care of themselves a bit better, and not to blame them for the health issues they're having, but just to find a better way to support them and educate them so they don't need to see a doctor quite as often. And I think it was around about 80%, like 4/5 of my morning could have potentially not come in to see me if they'd known about some simple health strategies that perhaps they weren't aware of. And that's what led me to write my book, which was a very labored and arduous task. But eventually I got it out there. It's really tough writing a book, knowing that, one day your great-grandchildren will read it and, well, I better make this valuable and make it comprehensible, but also practical. I really hate those books that you buy and it's just basically the author bragging about how great he is and all the things he's achieved. I wanted to write something that wasn't about me, but it was about you, about the reader, and making sure that they understand practical steps that they can take straight away and improve their health in a natural and sustainable way.
Oh, wonderful. I love it. Especially the making it more about the reader. I totally relate to that. That was kind of my same principle for my bestseller as well. But as a reader, why develop a book if you're not going to essentially improve the collective consciousness, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's what a wonderful, and I feel at this moment in time a critical contribution to the world. So thank you so much for that. I haven't read your book, but I did order it yesterday. So
okay, great.
Yeah, very excited. What is your take on the pharmaceutical industry as a whole? I mean, I played professional basketball in Germany, and it was near Cologne, and it was about 45 minutes or an hour from Bayer. And every time I would pass it, I would just look at this monstrosity of a company that just, it's one of the largest pharmaceutical brands in the world. I just thought, my gosh, all the amount of pills at that place right there is just popping out into the world. How do you think it's just become this? It's almost like an indoctrinated process that has totally infiltrated the medical, and it's almost like, I feel like here in America, I don't know about the UK, and I had this chat with my father just last week. He doesn't want to see the doctor anymore because his point of view, and this is not mine because I can't tell you the last time I've gone to see a white coat. He doesn't want to go because he simply said, well, I don't want to take any pills. Mm-hmm. I believe that statement alone is directly reflective of, hey, when you go to see the doctor now, it's almost 100% guarantee they're going to prescribe something. Mm-hmm.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I can only comment on what's happening in the UK. Okay. And, there's no guarantee that a doctor is definitely going to prescribe something. It really depends on the doctor and on the patient and on the case and how that doctor chooses to practice. I think I do have concerns about the amount of prescriptions that are being written for reasons that perhaps could be addressed in a better and more natural and healthy way. But back to your question about the pharmaceutical industry. Yes, I mean, there are long-standing problems there that go back. I mean, even here in the UK, back in the 70s, a pharmaceutical rep would, happily volunteer to fly you and your wife out to Vegas for the weekend, all expenses paid, and have a great time. And I thought, okay, well, that's died away now, so that's not happening. But then I was just speaking to my father the other day, and he told me in 2003 they offered to fly him out to Manhattan for the weekend, stay at the Ritz-Carlton, and lavish feasts that they could have every night. And obviously they'd have to do a presentation on their particular brand. And he said, well, the presumption is that you feel these doctors can be bribed. Now, maybe some doctors can. I certainly cannot. But, I think there are increasing clampdowns on this kind of behavior from the pharmaceutical representatives. And now it's very, very difficult here in the UK to pull off that kind of behavior, and rightly so. But yes, I mean, there are more and more drugs being prescribed for, various reasons. There are more diagnoses being made. They are broadening a lot of diagnostic criteria to, get people diagnosed for conditions quicker. But it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion that the doctor is definitely going to prescribe. And also, you don't have to accept a prescription. What I'm finding is in my final year as a doctor, increasingly patients were saying, what, I don't want any tablets. What can I do to help this problem get better by myself? And that's just music to my ears. I love hearing that, and give them appropriate advice, whether it's within their diet or within their lifestyle or exercise regime or needing to de-stress, and then make sure I stay in regular touch with them and see much better results without any side effects, and it's a lot more fulfilling doing it that way around. But you need to have a patient who is open-minded and willing to embrace that. We have a long-standing tradition that you're sick, you see a doctor, he gives you pills, and hopefully that will soon become outdated. But yeah, I mean, I can understand. Sorry, was it your father that you said wouldn't see the doctor?
No, he refuses to go anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think like I say, it depends on the doctor, but that is the old paradigm. If you want meat, you go to a butcher. If you want a book, you go to the library. If you want pills, you go to your doctor.
Yeah.
And I guess it really depends on what you're looking for.
And I really love what you're doing now. How you're influencing and having an impact on corporations, which have massive stress, massive overwhelm in the corporate world because of the debilitating effects of stress. And you've created these groundbreaking wellness programs. How have you managed to even get let's just say the awareness of do you go to the CEO of a corporation, or do you contact the HR department, or you'd have to have a very open-minded company to even have a expert like you come in and try to influence their culture, correct?
Well, I think wellness within companies is starting to get some attention now.
Yeah.
Big companies like Apple and Google and Goldman Sachs, they all have their own in-house wellness programs. And, one could make the case that that's why they're so big. But there's a lot of, medium to large size companies that don't have that, particularly in the financial sector. A lot of jobs where people are very sedentary, sitting in an office by a computer for, 4 or 5 hours at a time until lunch break. And, they have a coffee station with pastries and cookies that they can eat. And obviously that's not a good formula for supporting health and wellness. But, the facts are the facts. And there are a number of studies that have been looked into this. For every $1 invested into your company's wellness, it yields a return of $5.81. There's a lot of studies done about, particularly in the American Journal of Health Promotion, looking at, happiness ratings, looking at companies' sick leave or absenteeism, and noticing that this is actually improved quite significantly by incorporating some sort of in-house wellness program. Now, I don't go into a company as an employee and say, right, okay, I'm here with you, and this is what we're going to do together, and we're going to work every single day. I go in as a consultant and say, well, let's look at the problem. Let's look at what the team are open to engaging with. Let's get them educated on areas of health that they perhaps don't really know much about or need to learn more about. And let's incorporate these programs to see what tangible result we can see. So that's the approach that I take right now. At the moment, I'm not directly working with a company as such. I'm working with one-on-one with a couple of CEOs for their company, on behalf of their company, as a consultant. And this work I do is not medical, so I'm not working as a doctor in any capacity whatsoever. Obviously, I bring my experience to the table, but I do not prescribe in this particular setting. And obviously, we have very clear terms of engagement.
Sure. I love it. More and more, this is actually becoming a trend in America as well, especially with the rising costs of healthcare, and keeps exponentially increasing. And like you said, the ROI and investing in your employees, I think, is becoming more of a commonality, which is wonderful. But, you take people like us, that I actually attempted what you're doing now about 3 or 4 years ago. It just wasn't my cup of tea, so to speak, working with corporations. But what I did notice is you bring in a holistic approach to this company, and it's almost like, how do you promote your principles of self-healing and prevention when if you even speak of something, almost Eastern energetic, it seems almost mysterious woo-woo to most, right?
Yep. Yeah, it does.
Do you feel these holistic protocols hurt your credibility?
Not really. I mean, you use the right tool for the right client, and the Eastern energetic work that I do is a tool. It's one of the many tools that I can bring to the table. So it's not for everybody. You have to look at the individual and the corporation and just determine what you feel would be the best fit, where you can really add value. And if I feel that I can't add value, if there are too many, should we say, personality blocks or obstructions, then I'd say, look, you know what, it's not right for me to work for you. I don't want to take your money. I think you guys need to go and reflect on yourselves for a little while, which is, that's fine. But there are people who are very open-minded to a whole bunch of different principles, and we can work together very successfully to create a lasting and supportive wellness program that they can adhere to and sustain.
I love it. I like to hear that. What do you actually, you have so much experience and a lot of years under your belt. I mean, what do you overall see as some of the largest issues in today's in health and wellness?
Stress. It all comes back to stress. Stress, I believe, is the fundamental basis of practically all non-genetic illness. Whether it's type 2 diabetes, heart disease, cancers, strokes, there's an element of stress to it in non-genetic cases. So it can be a physical stress, it can be a mental or emotional stress, or a social stress, or a combination of all three. And my area of expertise is finding out where that imbalance lies and how we can reverse it in the quickest possible way so that people can restore their health naturally and effectively.
Now, for most, when they actually hear, and for those that are tuning in, and it's, I'm sure we've piqued their interest. Now, what is he talking about? When you mean naturally, what are some examples?
Well, what I mean is without pills.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at an individual's circumstances and seeing what behaviors or attitudes or approaches or mindset or social interactions can be adapted to support their health and wellness, and then making those adaptations and making sure that we follow up appropriately and get the result we're looking for.
Wonderful. And for those UKers listening to this, which I hope is a ton, how can they find out more about you?
The best way to get hold of me directly is probably through my LinkedIn profile. So feel free to send me a message. I'm just working on my website, which is, I have two websites that are going to be updated very soon. So that's thehealthstudio.net is the name of my company. And there's shanhussain.com. And yes, so they should hopefully be updated fairly soon. In the meantime, probably the easiest way is to contact me through LinkedIn.
Wonderful. And your book is available on Amazon?
It's on Amazon, and it should be in Barnes & Noble out there.
All right. And also, everyone who's listening, look for our book, Wake Up. It's going to be approximately 20 other holistic experts in the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm very excited for that.
And I've seen Frederick's piece, and it's very impressive. So it's.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Well, Dr. Shan, I really appreciate you tuning in, especially from the UK. I think that's really neat, and how technologies come. Thank you so much. And
you're very welcome, Frederick. Great talking to you.
Yeah, likewise. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us. Listen every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern to Frederick Entenmann host Mind, Body, Life. Connect with Frederick at www.globalvoiceradio.com. Tune in next week for another edition of Mind, Body, Life on Global Voice Radio.